Welcome to Born to Win. I'm Brian Proctor, and I have created these podcast episodes around timeless principles that I learned from my father, Bob Proctor. And when understood and applied, these principles can change the direction of your life. If you're enjoying these podcasts, please like, follow, comment, and share. This helps me to reach more people. Today I want to talk about something that has influenced my thinking for many years. And I want to clearly state that this is our 34th episode. And without a doubt, this one is my favorite. So I really want you to listen to this. A concept that was written about by Thomas Troward more than a century ago, but remains just as relevant today as it was then. The idea is simple, yet it has the power to completely change the way you approach your goals, your relationships, your work, and even your daily life. The topic is the spirit of life. Or more specifically, what does it mean to enter into the spirit of something? Because I have noticed that many people go through life doing things without ever truly entering into them. They participate physically, but not mentally. They show up, but they're not fully present. They go through the motions, but never connect with the spirit behind what they're doing. Maybe they've never thought about what it means. My father often talked that life is not merely about action. It is about the consciousness behind the action. Two people can perform the exact same task and have completely different experiences. The difference is rarely talent. The difference is usually spirit. One person is fully engaged. The other is simply completing a task. One enters into the spirit of what they are doing. The other merely goes through the motions. It is really an exercise of presence, making a decision or setting an intention to completely and fully be present in the moment you are in. I like to say, be where your feet are. Truly be there. Engage your heart, your mind, and your body. Think about watching a musician. Every note hit perfectly, technically flawless. People lean in. They feel something. Why? Because the musician entered into the spirit of the music. They weren't just playing notes. They were expressing something. And when the audience enters into the spirit of the music right along with that musician, the room, it's electric. Life works exactly the same way. There is a spirit behind everything. A spirit of gratitude, a spirit of abundance, a spirit of growth, a spirit of service, a spirit of excellence. And when you enter into that spirit, you feel something different. You're sitting at a higher vibration of life. And when you do this consistently, with intention, your results begin to change. Not because the world changes, but because you change. You are choosing to engage, to be present, to participate, to be where your feet are. This was something my father demonstrated constantly. People often ask me what made Bob Proctor different. Was it his knowledge, his stage presence, his confidence? Certainly those things mattered, but if I had to choose one thing, I would say this. My father entered fully into whatever he was doing. If he was teaching, he was teaching. If he was listening, he was listening. And if he was studying, he was studying. He wasn't halfway in. He wasn't distracted. He wasn't somewhere else mentally. He entered into the spirit of the moment. When you met my father, you felt seen. And that's becoming increasingly rare today. We live in a world filled with a divided attention. People eat dinner while scrolling on their phones, attend meetings while checking messages, listen while preparing their response. They're physically present, but mentally absent. You see it everywhere. You can feel it when you're in the room. And when you live that way long enough, you begin missing the richness of life itself. Think about sunlight. Most of us enjoy sunlight, but there is a tremendous difference between scattered sunlight and focused sunlight. When sunlight passes through a magnifying glass, it becomes concentrated, powerful enough to create heat, powerful enough to start a fire. The light didn't change, the focus changed. And when focus changes, power increases. That is what happens when you enter into the spirit of something. Your energy becomes concentrated. Your effectiveness increases. Your experience, it deepens. One of the things Troward understood brilliantly was that life responds to the quality of consciousness we bring to it. We all experience greater satisfaction, creativity, and effectiveness when we are fully immersed in what we are doing. Today, you will often hear this referred to as the flow state. Athletes experience it. Artists experience it. Entrepreneurs experience it. Time seems to disappear. Effort feels different. The work becomes rewarding in itself. Why? Because they have entered into the spirit of the activity. You can do this in everyday life, in every experience, no matter how mundane. It is a choice, a decision, an intention. Imagine two people beginning a fitness program. One approaches it as punishment. I have to do this. The other approaches it as growth. I get to do this. Same workout, different spirit, different experience, and different result. Or think about gratitude. Many people keep a gratitude journal because someone told them they should. They write 3 things down every night. Check the box. Move on. Nothing changes. Why? Because they never entered into the spirit of gratitude. They performed the action, but they never sat with and felt the experience. My father, he often quoted Wallace Wattles, who taught that gratitude is not merely saying thank you. Gratitude, it's a state of being. It is a way of relating to life. And there is a tremendous difference between practicing gratitude and entering into the spirit of gratitude. One is an activity. The other is a transformation. You feel it when you are there, and the people around you feel it too. Same thing happens with goals. People often ask why affirmations don't work, or why visualization doesn't work, or why goal cards don't work. But that's usually the wrong question. The question should be, did you enter into the spirit of it? Because if you're reading a goal card while mentally arguing against it, you are not entering into the spirit of the goal. If you're visualizing while doubting every image you create, you are not entering into the spirit of the vision. If your affirmation is so far out of alignment that your body rejects it, you are not entering into the spirit of where you are going. It is always the inner state that matters. This is so obvious when you observe someone saying one thing and doing another. We see that a lot in personal development. Ask yourself, are they walking their talk? Are they entering into the spirit of it? You can feel it in a person's authenticity. Trust that feeling. Think about learning anything new. A new language, for example. You can memorize vocabulary, study grammar, complete lessons, but eventually there comes a moment when you stop translating and start thinking in the language. You enter into it. The language becomes part of you. That's when real fluency begins, and life, it works similarly. There is a difference between studying a principle and entering into the spirit of the principle. One of the greatest examples I have seen is service. Some people help others because they feel obligated. Others genuinely enter into the spirit of service. They become interested, present, engaged. People can feel the difference immediately, and the impact they make, it's felt. Now, I want to connect this idea to self-image because I believe this is where many people get stuck. They intellectually understand the life they want, but emotionally, they remain attached to an old identity. They want confidence, but they continue entering into the spirit of self-doubt. They want abundance, but they continue entering into the spirit of lack and scarcity. They want growth, but they continue entering into the spirit of fear. And until the spirit changes, the results rarely do. My father taught repeatedly, you will never outperform your self-image. Now why? Because your self-image determines the spirit from which you operate. It influences how you think, how you feel, how you speak, and how you act. Everything begins there. Think about an actor preparing for a role. The best actors, they don't simply memorize lines. They become the character. They study the character. They think like the character and move like the character. They enter into the spirit of the role. And because of that, their performance becomes believable. The audience feels it. The same principle applies to personal growth. If you want to become more confident, enter into the spirit of confidence. If you want to become more disciplined, enter into the spirit of discipline. If you want to become more abundant, enter into the spirit of abundance. Not someday. You can start right now. This doesn't mean pretending. It means practicing alignment. It means asking yourself, what would the version of me I want to become think about this? How would they respond? What attitude would they bring? That question alone can change your trajectory. One thing I observed in my father throughout my life was his remarkable ability to become emotionally involved in an idea. When he believed in something, he was fully in. And that's why people felt his conviction. Conviction isn't something you manufacture. It's something that naturally emerges when you enter into the spirit of an idea. The opposite is equally true. Many people spend years entering into the spirit of worry, the spirit of complaint, the spirit of limitation, the spirit of resentment. And eventually those states begin shaping their experience of life. Not because life is punishing them, but because consciousness always influences results. So how do we begin entering into the spirit of life itself? By becoming more present, more aware, more engaged, more intentional. By bringing ourselves fully to what we are doing. By refusing to live distracted. By choosing to participate instead of merely observe. Begin by putting your phone away, not in your pocket, but maybe in a different room. The spirit of life is growth, expansion, possibility, creation. Life itself is always moving forward, always expressing more, always seeking greater expression. And when you align yourself with that spirit, something begins to shift inside you. You stop merely surviving, and you begin creating. So for this week, I want to give you a very simple practice. Choose one area of your life, just one. It might be your work, your health, your relationships, your finances, or your personal growth. And ask yourself, what spirit have I been bringing to this area? Then ask, what spirit do I want to bring? Not what action, not what strategy, but what spirit? More gratitude, more curiosity, more service, more confidence, more enthusiasm. Once you've chosen it, spend the week consciously entering into the spirit before you take action. Notice how differently you think. Notice how differently you feel. And more importantly, notice how differently you show up. Thomas Troward wrote about entering into the spirit of things. My father taught the same principle in his own way throughout his life, and I believe it remains one of the most important lessons that we can learn. Because success is not merely about doing the right things. It's about becoming the person who brings the right spirit to what they do. So let me leave you with this. What if the breakthrough you're looking for isn't found in doing more, but in bringing a different spirit to what you're already doing? Because when you enter into the spirit of life, life begins responding in remarkable ways. And that is when you truly begin to experience what it means to be born to win. Thank you for joining me today on Born to Win. If this message resonated with you, please share it with someone who could use a reminder of their own inner greatness. It also helps me to reach more people if you rate and follow this podcast. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Brian Proctor Official. And remember, success isn't about luck or timing. It's about alignment. You were designed for success, built for expansion, and born to win. I'll see you next Monday. Until then, think big, trust yourself, and keep growing.